What is up, everyone? Welcome into another Warzone Sports Network division preview. Today, we're previewing the AFC East, and we got Jets fan galore in here. Jets, Jets.
Hear me on the radio, coming to your locale. Got into the third round, better bring the smoke now. Step into the war zone. 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 Friday night war zone. Friday night war zone. Step into the 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 war zone. Friday night war zone. Friday night war zone.
Thanks to our guest editor, Isaac, for that wonderful division preview highlight reel. More like a Jets training camp highlight reel, but thank you, Isaac.
Right.
Together. What's up, everyone? We're joined with the Sports Force crew. I wore my shirt for it. Brian Bolstered, Joe Skirto. How you guys doing? And Alex Robson of the Robson Sportscast with his Jets gear on.
Woo! Hey, doing great. I'm here to, just bring a little bit of level-headedness, some facts, because I know those two are going to be bringing the emotions.
Hey, man, come on, Brian. You know me. You know me by now, man. You know I'm not.
Bolster, you bring the emotion out in me, man. I'm not like this. I'm not emotional around anybody else other than you, which I enjoy. So let's do this, gentlemen. I am pumped up for this.
Well, let's just get this out of the way, and let's get this 45-minute to hour-and-a-half argument out of the way. We're going to be starting off with the Jets, looking at their additions and their key departures. So 4 departures, of course. Coach Adam Gase, I'm sure you guys are going to miss him. Quarterback Sam Darnold made the graphic. Anderson went to the Patriots. They lost Pat Eflin. Brian Poole, I believe, is still unsigned. McDougal still unsigned. Flacco, not that big a deal. I believe he was actually traded. And Brashad Perryman leaving the Jets this year. And then as far as additions, of course, the new head coach, Robert Saleh, coming over from the 49ers. Carl Lawson, a different Lawson, wearing a Jets uniform, coming from the Cincinnati Bengals. Corey Davis from Brian's Tennessee Titans. Draft picks Zach Wilson and Vera Tucker, Elijah Moore, and Michael Carter. Busy offseason for the Jets. Finished 2-14 last year. What are your guys' thoughts? What's your thoughts, Joe, on the Jets' additions and subtractions so far?
I mean, they've obviously gotten better, but that's pretty easy to do considering you were 2-14 last year. They had the 32nd ranked offense, not very good. And I think they clearly just get better without Adam Gase. I mean, I think they got better before they even signed anyone. They were also 24th on defense. So not very good. But in terms of what they have done, I think they have really, engaged in those needs, whether it starts in the offensive front. You go get Morgan Moses as well. He's not in there, but I think he was a big addition to go with Becton as well as Elijah Vera Tucker. Tucker, of course, you go 23-14. They give up multiple picks to go trade down 9 spots. So trade up 9 spots, excuse me. So, yeah, I mean, you can't really complain. They are a better team now, but they still have a lot of work to do. It's clear. But I think you're starting to see you may finally have some adults in the building, and the Jets haven't had many adults in the building for probably my lifetime. So I think the way they have gotten to it is it's getting there. They're helping their young guy. They're giving him weapons. They're giving him protection. They bring in a culture change guy like Robert Saleh who could relate to these young players. So far, so good, but the season hasn't started yet.
I agree. Alex, anything to add to that before I pass to Brian to kill your hopes and dreams?
Yeah, let's go ahead and get some more positivity before the negativity comes in here. But I am insanely happy with how the offseason has gone for the New York Jets. Like Joe said, getting Adam Gase out of there, that's immediately an offseason win, in my opinion. Getting that guy out of there who during his welcome in press conference looked like he was cracked down on some sort of drug. I don't know what it was, but he looked absolutely insane. But now you got Robert Saleh. You got a guy I believe will be a culture change type of guy. And you also added a lot of different pieces in there. You get great defensive players. You get some offensive firepower. You get a new quarterback in Zach Wilson, who you all know and I adore. Of course, the big trade up for Elijah Vera Tucker, adding in Michael Carter and Elijah Moore. Great stuff from the New York Jets. I am excited for what this next season has in store, and I think the Jets are going to be a team on the rise, and they're going to surprise a lot of people in the near future.
Brian, I don't think you're going to completely take them down. I feel like you agree the Jets did get better, but how much better did they get?
Yeah, so first of all, I really like what the Jets have done in the past year, other than, the quarterback switch. But it's understandable. And with just the rest of the roster, it's completely different. And that's what I noticed, right? So that's the reason for a lot of optimism, but also a little bit of pump the brakes. Like, they're really young at the same time. So it's expected that this might take just another year. Joe mentioned the brand new head coach, first-time head coach, as well as the first-time offensive coordinator. So things are looking up for the Jets, without a doubt. I mean, you listed like 7 key additions. They have like 20 key additions. Some that I really like, Gerard Davis, CJ Mosley just coming back. So this team's going to be improved. They basically have a completely new offensive line. They have a completely new running back group and a completely new receiving core. So things have got to improve. I think Jets should be optimistic right now. Their fans, at least.
Hey, we're all getting along and agreeing so far on
That's the nicest thing Brian Bolster has said about my Jets in the time I've known him.
Well, I do have one anecdote. I mean, there's a reason they're able to get so much better, and they have so many key additions, right? They have like 28 key additions. Just a little anecdote. You guys probably know because you're Jets fans, but everybody watching, that since the 2018 roster, they have 2 players that are still on the team. 2. Chris Herndon and Marcus May. And that is it, right? So that shows how much overhaul was needed. It looks like they're making those changes now. And again, I like what Joe Douglas has done.
Completely revamped roster. Shout out to RC Productions for the $5 donation to the network. We appreciate it a ton, RC. He also is our music producer. So he's producing music for the network, and now he's donating $5 to the network. Thank you, Renee. Thank you, RC Productions. Go check them out for your music needs. Now we'll transition to these highlight players. We're just going to go across in the straight line, the way the graphic is, guys, and just kind of talk about our guy a little bit. I chose Vera Tucker just because I think the Jets are still going to be, bottom of the league, fighting for a top 10 pick around there towards the end of the year, but they're going to be looking at bright spots. And a big bright spot, I think, is going to be how much improved this O-line is going to be in front of Zach Wilson, trading up and getting Vera Tucker, being aggressive in the draft. That's how you start to rebuild this squad. Start from the offensive line and work your way out from there. So I love the Vera Tucker pick. I'm excited to see him and Joe Skirtle's guy playing alongside each other. Go ahead, Joe. Let us know about Mekhi Becton.
Oh, yeah, it's got to be Mekhi for me. I mean, last year was a little concerning as he probably exited 3 or 4 games due to injury, but it looks like he slimmed a little. You probably may not even realize because he's just such a big human at 6'7", 360. But this is a franchise tackle, and franchise tackles are the key position for a development of your young quarterback. That's what they failed to do with Sam Darnold, and now they're going to have 2 guys like Vera Tucker and Becton on the left side. So important. And I kind of overused this comparison, and I'm not comparing the 2 players, but just look what the Colts did. I mean, it's facts. Like, they go trade 3 to 6, ironically with the Jets, who end up drafting Darnold, to get Quentin Nelson. And Nelson is arguably a top 5 player. I mean, PFF had him ranked 3, and I think that's very true. Look at how much Andrew Luck benefited from that. Look at how much Phillip Rivers, who, Mike, barely could even throw the ball, and he still had success because he had all that time. I think Becton is a generational talent. I really do. He's got to stay healthy. That's my only concern. But, man, I think this guy can be a legit Pro Bowl caliber guy year in and year out because he has all the intangibles. He's athletic. He's big. And if you watch him, he's smart too. He's very smart, and he's only going to get better. So I'm just drooling over the fact that Mekhi Becton is a second year. He's going to be better. And also, you look at who Alex picked up as his highlight player. They're going at it every day at practice. That's just going to benefit both of those guys, especially a young guy like Becton.
It's good to see, and it's good to see the Jets nailing picks. They absolutely nailed the Becton pick when they picked him up. Brian, I noticed a little bit of a theme in your highlight players, but we'll talk about that as we move on with the episode. Give your rendition of Vera Tucker. Probably better than mine.
That was just a little bit of a coincidence, but so the main reason I picked Vera Tucker is just like Joe had mentioned, the offensive line is the most important thing to get right for your young quarterback. Becton was a step in the right direction. I'm going to give him a benefit of the doubt on the injury concerns, but Joe's exactly right. Those are valid concerns. They really are. You come in pretty overweight, you make a change, you play good football, but realistically, he was banged up a lot and missed a lot of games. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. It's mainly about continuing that positive progression. Is Joe Douglas getting it right in the draft? Because that's where Maccagnan messed up so often, where you're having your top 3 round picks just off the team in 2-3 years. That's why it's so important, as well as the flexibility that he brings to the offensive line. He can play tackle and guard. To me, he's easily at least the second most important offensive lineman that they have on the team, and potential to be the first with the flexibility that we know.
Jets. One sec. Sorry, Alex.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Alex.
No, I was just getting ready to start with mine. If you want to go ahead.
I was just going to ask, is Vera Tucker and Becton playing on the same side of the line?
Yes.
Yeah, at least right now. They're slotted to be left tackle, left guard. Left tackle is where Vera Tucker played in college his last year at USC and was absolutely dominant. I believe he was the highest graded tackle in the whole Pac-12. And then he played most of his career, though, inside at the left guard.
Nice. That's going to be a good sideline to watch throughout the year. Alex, go ahead and run with it. I know you're pumped up to talk about Lawson and the addition that you guys made.
Yeah, y'all being boring, talk about offensive linemen. Let's talk about what wins championships, and that is defense. The Jets have not had a consistently great pass rusher since John Abraham was on the roster. Now, they've had guys that have had spurts and moments, guys like Muhammad Wilkerson, guys like Sheldon Richardson, but Carl Lawson is a freak of nature player. I believe he led the NFL in quarterback hits last year, not sacks, quarterback hits. So he was getting after on that Cincinnati defense. But I'm not just focused on what Carl Lawson can bring to the stat sheet, because that's obvious. He can bring pressures. He can bring sacks. I'm thinking about what he's going to be able to do with the other guys on Robert Saleh's defense. Because let's not forget, they still got Quinnen Williams, a top 3 pick from a couple of years ago. They have a guy who's severely underrated, in my opinion, and John Franklin Myers playing on the right-hand side. So Carl Lawson's going to draw not only a lot of attention to him, but he's going to draw attention off of those guys, which I think is going to open up the ability for some of these other pass rushers to get after the quarterbacks they are facing. The Jets have had a terrible pass rush for multiple years in a row now. And for Joe Douglas to go out there and get a rising star, in my opinion, and Carl Lawson is huge. For this defense to make the big jump that I feel like it can make under Robert Saleh, Carl Lawson has to be the focal point, in my opinion. So that's why I have Carl Lawson as my impact player for the Jets.
I like it a ton. And you're right. He is going to be an impact player on that defense. The pass rush can completely flip the defense on its head at times when it really takes strides like we saw in Washington last year. Do you guys think Carl Lawson was the best pass rusher available this offseason? J.J. Watt went.
I'm not sure that he was the best one, but I think they got a great deal with him. And I think that's really important. Like, you need to bring in good players, but you can't sell out on the contract given the current state of the franchise and the roster.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know if we're going to get into this, but that's why I think the Jets made the right move with Marcus May as well. You don't want to have the 5th highest paid safety in the league, and you don't know if your team's any good yet. And by the time your team is good, that contract's fading out, or you're paying him still top 5 money as he's out of his prime at 32, 33 years old.
I'm with that. What do you think, Joe? I know you have a different take on the Marcus May situation. You're a little passionate on one of the live streams you went on.
Yeah, no, Brian and I talked about it too, and I totally get what he's saying. But like, I just feel like it's just like a revolving door of when the Jets finally, they don't do it often, but when they finally get draft picks right, they fail miserably. The thing is that a lot of people don't think, though, is Marcus May did get drafted at an older age. He was 24 as a rookie. That is pretty old. So the only thing I'm not really worried is that he's still only played 4 years of NFL football. He might not be as, he might not have as much wear and tear as we think. I could be totally wrong with this. But my thing is just, I can't stand watching superstars just keep leaving. I don't, I know there's a window with safeties. It's usually 30. It's usually 31. But I think they could have got this done. They could have met him in the middle. He's made it known he wants to stay here. So I just think they should have, kept on going. They spent plenty of money, and I don't want to hear that Joe Douglas doesn't spend money. I mean, he does. He spent $45 million on Carl Lawson. Of course, he's 25, and Corey Davis the same thing, 26. But still, he has money to spend. Right? It's not our money, but I really think that it's a big key to have on defense a veteran guy, because we talk about how young this roster is. At 28, 29, Marcus May is one of the oldest players on that defensive side. So I think it's important to have these veterans to help these young guys, especially if he's still playing at a top level. I think he's reaching his peak now because last year was a breakout year. So, yes, I'm very disappointed. I still am, and I'm sticking with my guns here. But I also get the side of what, Brian and Alex has put out, too, about the situation.
Joe Morley Sports Show saying, are y'all really pumping up the Jets? Don't worry, Joe. We're going to get to record predictions at the end of all this. We'll come back down to earth. The Jets had a crazy offseason, a complete outhaul, and I feel like, in my opinion, they did pretty well. Last chance for Jets takes before we go to the Death Star in Foxborough and talk to Darth Vader and the New England Patriots. Alex, you got any last things? I see you.
Oh, I'll talk about Marcus May for a hot minute because I agree with both Bolster and Joe on the situation. But I actually, for the first time I'm ever going to admit this live on the air, I'm actually going to lean towards more Bolster side of the argument here. I know that's unheard of in conversation between me and Brian, but it's true. Joe, I understand the pride you have in Marcus May. I have the same feeling that Marcus May is a great football player. But there's two things we can really point at here. He is 28 years old. And like you said, that shelf life is about 30, 31 for safeties. And you mentioned not as much wear and tear. He was 4-year starter at Florida. As a Gator fan, I know Marcus May very, very well. I was very happy when we picked him. But he started from his true freshman year all the way to his senior year as a Florida Gator. And he was very, very good there as well. So he still has the miles on him. But in the end, I am just saying that Marcus May, he deserves his money. But at the end of the day, you have to understand what Joe Douglas is doing here. He's not going to overpay for a guy that may not be at the peak of his game in a couple of years. So, in my opinion, Joe Douglas has made the right move here. Now, of course, I would love to see May get an extension and stay here long term. But in the end, he can be replaced if he needs to. I don't find it a coincidence that the Jets drafted 2 safeties in the draft to where they're not ready just in case Marcus May does decide he wants to walk away.
I'm with it. All right, let's head to New England. Let's switch these graphics up real quick.
We don't have to do that.
Check out on the Patriots, Jets fans' best friends over the last couple of years. They had their own busy off season while you guys were having your busy off season. These are the highlight players, not the right graphic. Here we go. Julian Edelman, of course, retired. They lost Marquise Lee, not too much of a big loss there. Marcus Cannon on his way to Houston. Joe Thuney, a big player in their offensive line, going to KC. They lost one of the McCourty twins, who's going to be a Miami Dolphin, their rival, and Patrick Chung also retired this offseason. And for key additions, you see the star power in this. I mean, including Mac Jones, obviously, but Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry, the 2 tight ends they added this offseason. Matt Judon, one of the better pass rushers over there in Baltimore the last couple of years, now is in New England. Mac Jones, their first-round pick and, new quarterback. We're thinking is going to be their future quarterback. Nelson Aguilar added to the team to help out at wide receiver. Kendrick Bourne as well. And they got Ted Karras off for the offensive line. Busy offseason for the Patriots. Brian, we'll go to you first. What were your thoughts on the Patriots offseason? A lot of people were knocking them. Some people were supporting them. What are you thinking?
Yeah, it was uncharacteristic. That's the word I would use to describe it. I'll hold off on saying desperate, but I know they got that criticism because they spent more money in free agency than they had in the last 10 years combined. It was pretty wild. The one thing that I think is really important to add that I didn't see on the key additions that kind of went quietly, which offensive line additions always seem to, is they got Trent Brown back. And I believe they traded a 5th-round pick for him. That's a really big deal, and I could be mistaken. You guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm about 100% sure they're getting their guard, Mike Onwenu. It's probably not how you pronounce it at all, back, that he sat out last year because of COVID. And he's a top guard in the league as well. So I think everybody's going to talk about the tight ends. That's awesome. The receiver, that's great. But the quieter additions are why I'm feeling a little bit more positive about the Patriots this year.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And also all those guys coming back on defense that opted out last year, and the middle of their defense, Donta Hightower being the biggest one. Joe, you have some criticism for the Patriots or some praise for your arch rivals?
I don't have criticism. I do think they were desperate, but I think they had to be. I mean, you think Belichick was enjoying what he was witnessing last year? Tom Brady winning the Super Bowl, Cam Newton throwing for 8 touchdowns, one of the most historically bad seasons we've ever seen as a quarterback. And that's not even exaggerating. He was that bad. I really like what the Pats did. And I think they're going slowly back to their identity, which has been reliant on good defense and good offensive line. And I think Belichick knows you don't have Tom Brady anymore. So I like what they did with Smith and Henry. That's a very tight end friendly offense. And they really haven't had a lot of production out of the tight end position since Rob Gronkowski. And these are 2 Pro Bowl caliber tight ends. These aren't just 2, decent guys. These are really good players. As long as they stay healthy, the ceiling is super high to succeed on this offense. So yes, they're desperate, but they had to. And they also really, with the defense, go back to the defense, they're starting to get that pass rush again. And I think that's why they were so good a few years ago, why Stephon Gilmore was putting up historic numbers. This is a good defensive line. It's going to be tough to really play this defense. I think they're going to be a top maybe 7 defense, and that's huge for them. And even though they did lose Joe Thuney, they got their center Mark Andrews back, which a center is so valuable on the offensive side. With their draft, I mean, I thought the Mac Jones pick was the no-brainer pick. I think you had to take him. We were talking about him going number 2. He falls all the way to 15 to the Patriots. So I think it was a good offseason. I think the Pats will be competitive. It all just depends on that quarterback situation. Can Cam Newton improve with the weapons? And if not, I just feel like they're rushing Mac Jones in that sense. But I guess that's something we'll have to see how it pans out.
Yeah, I think we're going to see some old school New England Patriots football here in this season. It's going to be interesting to see how the tight ends gel with whoever's in at quarterback. It's got to be a run-first offense still, you'd think. Alex, did the Patriots get better this last offseason, or did they get worse?
Well, Joe, you kind of hit the nail on the head. Even though Cam Newton had probably one of the worst quarterbacking seasons ever, they still won 7 games because of that amazing defense. And they got better on defense, in my opinion, with some of their draft picks. This defense is going to be the driving force to the point where I really don't care who's playing quarterback. I still think they're going to be a solid football team. I don't know about playoffs, but they're going to be still a competitive football team. But there is one thing that gets on my nerves about the New England Patriots and all the hype they're getting from this offseason. It is from the State Puff Marshmallow Man-looking quarterback himself, Mac Jones. Everybody and anybody is looking at him, proclaiming him as the second coming of the Lord himself, talking about him being another Tom Brady-like player because of how he looks. Don't you dare hit me with that blasphemy. Mac Jones is nothing compared to Tom Brady. He is not going to be the franchise quarterback, in my opinion. I do not think that was a good pick. I think, like Joe said, that had to be the pick. You had to take a quarterback because Cam Newton's not going to be your centerpiece for the next 10 to 15 years. He'd be lucky to play the rest of this season, in my opinion. But Mac Jones, I think, has so many flaws and issues where his game that was so good at Alabama, where he had a great offensive line and 5-star receivers he was throwing to every other play, bringing that now to New England, where he has a decent offensive line, but really 2 receivers worth knowing while and both playing the same position, the tight end position, Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. So Mac Jones, I am very, very skeptical of. I don't think he's going to be a top-tier quarterback like everyone's trying to claim he will be, but maybe he could prove me wrong. But right now, I don't see it with Mac Jones.
Oh, I think he's going to prove you wrong, Alex. I think he's going to prove you way wrong. Well, I got the Patriots, I think, being in the wild card picture and battling for it. My thing with Mac Jones is with this defense and with what I think the run game is going to be, do I trust him to convert a 3rd and 5? Do I trust him to make the right read? I mean, in college, he showed he can make the right reads. I know Brian's about to say something, so go ahead, Brian. But I personally believe in Mac Jones, and I think Mac Jones is their best option. I would start Cam. Go ahead and give him a shot. But if it's not working out by week 4, let's throw Mac Jones into the fire and see what he can do. He was NFL ready. I felt like he was the second most NFL ready quarterback out of the draft this year.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, I who knows with particularly first-round quarterbacks, it's a flip of a coin. Like literally throughout history, it's a flip of a coin, like 51% straight up bust. But I think we saw a case with Mac Jones where he slid too far, and especially in the public eye, the fans' opinions slid way too far because of lack of athleticism, or at least a perceived lack of athleticism. Supposedly he ran a 4.68 40, which is pretty dang fast. Like that's above average in the league right now. And I think we're valuing that maybe a little too much. His coaches that have worked with him, Steve Sarkisian, most notably the offensive coordinator that worked with him, said that he blew him away with his intellect, the amount he was able to absorb, how quickly he was able to process new offense, and was like he was able to give him everything. And that's a big deal when it comes to the NFL. Mike talked about NFL readiness. He does check that box. Over there in New York, that's kind of the question mark, right? He's a little flashier, but you guys know I value substance. I don't care about what could be. I care about what you've actually done, right? And here's just one other thing. With Mac Jones, he's been injury-free. Not to go back too far again and take another little jab, but in New York, their quarterback, that has not been the case. So, hey, we'll see what happens. I'm just a fan of substance, and I think at 15, it's a great pick.
Can you hear it in his voice, Joe Skirdo? Can you hear it in his voice, Mike, on the mic? He's doing it on purpose, ladies and gentlemen. He knows how to get to me. He just finds a way. I don't know how you do it, Brian. But it's probably because you know too damn much, honestly. Like you are just like, you have the knowledge. You are a very knowledgeable person. I respect the hell out of that. But good Lord above, man. Gosh.
Show Zach Wilson love.
I'm just saying, hey, I told these guys, I think he has top tier talent. Who knows if that's going to amount to anything, but he does. Those throws he makes in shorts, amazing. But that's one thing like I value. Like Mac Jones, we didn't see that. He didn't get the hype train of his pro day where he's throwing off balance in spandex, right? Like I don't give a rip about that. And I'm not saying that the players who were drafted in front of him were only picked before him because of their spandex workouts. But like that stuff, like, hey, you can save that. I want game tape. I want coaches' opinions. Mac Jones, man, he won't be Brady. We can agree there.
Yeah. I think we can all agree on that. Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I agree. He's not going to be Brady, but I do really like the pick. I do. And I think it really has to factor into their offensive style. Like, I think this was the best case scenario for Mac Jones. I could have leaned towards San Francisco as well. But, I mean, is he the most talented out of the top five? No. But the situation, that matters. That matters a ton. And we've seen a lot of quarterbacks who Dak Prescott was a third rounder. He went into a good situation. Russell Wilson was a third rounder. He went into a good situation. It happens. Lamar Jackson was the last pick. He went to a good situation and he won the MVP. So I really think that matters. And that's why I'm not going to say that Mac Jones is going to stink, but I got to see him. I mean, out of all five of these guys, it's the same thing. We don't know who's going to be good. We don't know who's going to be a bust. They all have the fair chance. But when you factor in the situation, the surrounding cast, where he is, they've won, 6 Super Bowls. Bill Belichick, arguably the best coach ever. So he's in a good situation. He goes from Saban to Belichick. I mean, that is incredible. So that's the only reason why I'm not fading Mac Jones, because of that situation. It's so important.
Can I just get one other analogy in? And then we're talking about these quarterbacks. I feel like we didn't get to talk about, their quarterback at all. But, Mike, do you know who's the quarterback that Trevor Lawrence has been compared to the most? Do you guys know? Peyton Manning, right? Peyton Manning went first overall. Who was the quarterback that was picked second that year, who had a cannon, who had all the physical talent? Do we remember?
No, we don't.
They say history repeats itself. I don't know. Ryan Leaf.
Don't even do that, man.
We don't remember. Let's move on to the highlight. You just took a jab at all of us somehow. Let's go ahead and move on to the highlight players for the Patriots. I chose J.C. Jackson. He had a very up and down, wishy-washy season. Made plays in the ball, but at times also got toasted a little bit. I still think that he's an above-average, good cornerback in the NFL. But as the Patriots make this decision on Stephon Gilmore, I think J.C. Jackson's level of play this year, especially early on in the year, is going to be a big factor in making that decision going forward. And it's also a contract year for J.C. and damn self, so you know he's going to bring it out. Matthew Judon's your guy, Joe. You want to give us a little brief on him?
Yeah, even though I think they slightly overpaid for him, I think you kind of have to because he is an edge rusher. It's valuable to have a good edge rusher. The last 4 years, he's had at least 6 sacks, and I think this is the start of the Pats going back to their really good defense. They were 15th last year. They were still right in the middle. They had a lot of injuries, though, and this year they're getting back Hightower, which I think is no one's really talking about. That's a pretty underrated comeback. And with Matthew Judon, I think he's going to have the ability to rack up a career high, which would be 10 sacks. I think he's going to have that much of an impact in a Bill Belichick style defense. And this is really a move that the Pats needed. And now they have another star. I do think they overpaid him a bit. And the last few years have been good, but not great. I think he is great this year. I think that's a huge addition. And I think it was honestly one of the better signings in free agency. I'd go as far and say that. I really, really like Matt Judon. And I think New England, again, we go back to situations. It's a perfect situation, like a guy like Judon, who is very athletic. He can cover. He can get to the quarterback. He could do it all. So I'm excited to see what he can do in New England.
Wow, would you look at this? Joe, that was a great take, by the way. But look at this. Brian Bolstert and Alex Robson have agreed on a few things during this broadcast. And now here we are with the highlight player, and it's the same person. Brian, why'd you choose Nelson Aguilar, except for reasoning being that he went to school in Southern California?
So the reason is because we've all talked, right? Like the offensive line is going to be good. The tight end position, that's set. The running backs, like they're good there. The defense, that's solid. The question mark is the receiving core, and particularly the threat over the top. That's got to be Nelson Aguilar. They're going to need him to repeat his performance like he did with the Raiders, where he's averaging almost 19 yards a reception. That's why it's so key. I think if they're missing that, you have Kendrick Bourne, you have other guys that are decent. Who knows about N'Keal Harry, right? But those are still underneath threats. And I get it. The case can be made that Johnny Smith, relative for a tight end, can be a vertical stretcher. I get that. But to me, if this is actually going to be a more than just playoff contender, a team that makes the playoffs, is going to have a respectable offense, unlike last year, can challenge people in the playoffs, is going to come down to Nelson Aguilar in particular, getting to that 1,000-yard mark, having 15 yards or more a reception.
Yeah, Renee, and I should probably have defined this before the stream started. For the highlight player, it's just someone that we want to highlight and just talk about their importance to the team and why we think they're important. Brian went with Nelson Aguilar, and he gave his reasoning. You got anything to add, Alex? Because you also Nelson.
Yes, I also did go Nelson Aguilar. And it's funny because the Raiders once again choke away a decent half receiver because they don't have any of those really in Las Vegas. So they get Nelson Aguilar, who I like. It's crazy how quick the turnaround was for Nelson. He gets out of Philadelphia, where Philadelphia fans basically threw him into the fire, said, "Know what? We're done with you. We got firefighters that can catch better than you." And now you go to Vegas and you ball out. Like, he had a great year, in my opinion, for the Raiders. And now he comes to the Patriots, who are starving for a decent wide receiver because, N'Keal Harry I thought was going to be that guy coming out of college. And he hasn't been. I am still waiting for him to show up. So now you get Nelson Aguilar, who I think can be a good 50-50 ball kite player. But he has to show up. Now, I think it does kind of like we're all saying here, it's not going to be the main focus of their offense. It's going to be running the ball and getting the ball to their 2 tight ends they pay big money for. But that doesn't negate the fact that you still need production from your wide receiver core. And Nelson Aguilar, I believe, is going to be a major factor in that. I need to see that it's not a one-year wonder that he had with the Raiders.
RC Productions, he's a Patriots fan. He wants to see Myers and Gunner get more action than Nelson Aguilar. I think Aguilar is a more complete receiver at this very moment. I think Myers is the only one out of those two that really has a chance to threaten him this year. But let's take a quick vote before we move on to the Miami Dolphins, my favorite team to talk about this year other than the Washington football team. Before we do it, trade Stephon Gilmore or keep Stephon Gilmore for this year? I am voting trade. What do you think, Brian?
I think keep him.
Keep him?
Yeah, I do. I think the Patriots are in it. They're in a weird space. And without going on too long, I think they're in a relative win-now mode with the age of a lot of their players. So, yeah, I think they got to keep him.
Yeah, and I opposite reasons is why I think they should trade him, because I don't think that they really have a shot in the AFC this year with the Bills and the Chiefs and the Browns and the Titans and these teams just completely loading up and getting ready to go at it in the playoffs. So I think the Patriots should just have some hindsight and try and get something for him while he still has some value. Joe, what do you think? Stephon Gilmore, would you trade him right now or would you keep him?
I'd keep him too. He's in a weird point of his career, weird point of his contract. I think you give him what he needs. Give him what he wants. I honestly think Gilmore needs the Patriots need Gilmore more than Gilmore needs the Patriots. Tongue twister. But I really do, because he is still a top corner and they need him. And I do think this year's moves, it is kind of a win now. They're not trying to do what they did last year. They're not trying to miss the playoffs. You spend almost half the amount of money around there. I think they spent $200,000. I think they spent $500,000 like the last decade. You don't spend that type of money if you're not trying to win now. So give Gilmore his money, because I think either way, you're going to be undervaluing him if you do trade him, because you're not going to get what Belichick wants back. So I think the safe move is give him a few extra million, let him play it out. He's going to be a Pro Bowler once again.
Alex, side with me. Come on.
Now, of course, the Jet fan in me is saying, yes, trade him. Get him the hell out of the AFC East. I don't want to deal with him anymore. But I think if you're the Patriots, you can't, like this guy just said, you can't trade him. I mean, he is still a top-tier corner, in my opinion. So I say keep him, let him play. He plays incredibly well, give him the money. If not, then you lose nothing, in my opinion. So I would say definitely keep him.
So, Mike, just to back you up in one respect, based on what they should do, which I would have gone about their free agency differently, but I think they should have gone in free agency a little bit differently and traded him, because I'm with you. Like, I think they're a little bit more in rebuild is a little bit strong, but like retool. They can be competitive, but to me, like, I want championships. And right now they're battling, more like wild card.
Shane, we got the record predictions ready for you. We're going to drop them after we get through all the previews. With that, thank you for agreeing with me, Brian. I get a half vote from you, so I'll take that. Take that to the bank. We're moving on to the Miami Dolphins next. They finished second in the division last year and famously didn't make the playoffs at 10-7, I believe it was. We got it on the graphic for the key. 10-6. Sorry, 10-7 this year, 10-6 last year. Here is the key departures and additions for the Miami Dolphins. I don't know if you guys noticed. Just to trigger the Dolphins fan, they don't got a logo up there in the standings. It's just a regular old dolphin jumping through a hoop. But anyways, for key departures, Ryan Fitzmagic obviously going to be the starting quarterback for the Washington football team this year, if Heineke lets him. And then we got Matt Breida going to Buffalo to join their three-headed monster, I guess, now, but really trying to figure out who the running back's going to be up there in Buffalo. Kyle Van Noy going back to New England. Bobby McCain, I think this was a departure that Dolphins fans don't realize how much this might hurt them. He's left for Washington as well. And then Devon Godchow head to the division rivals. You see on here 3 of their 5 key departures that I marked down going to division rivals. So we'll keep an eye if those guys get some revenge games. And then for key additions, Will Fuller going from Houston, injury plagued, going to try and help be a spark for their offense, a big playmaker for them, along with Jalen Waddle, who they drafted. Jalen Phillips, one of my favorite draft picks of the draft, heading to Miami, staying in Miami. Malcolm Brown's going to help out the running back group, probably going to be replacing Breida there. They got Jacoby Brissett, and I put him on here because Dolphins fans don't want to admit it, but I feel like they made sure they got a serviceable backup for a reason. And then Devon Holland, a safety that they drafted as well for this defense. What do you guys think about these key additions and subtractions? We'll start with Joe on this topic just to switch it up a little.
Yeah, with the Dolphins, it's weird. When I started looking at them, they were a 22nd offense and 20th defense. Normally, when you see that, you might be 6-10. They were 10-6, and I think coaching is a huge factor here. These guys are getting better. I like the additions, and it's similar. They're giving Tua as many weapons as they possibly can to not have to have that decision of do we keep him or not. He's going to have 3 solid receivers in Parker, and now with Fuller and drafting Jalen Waddle, you get Gaskin and Malcolm Brown in the backfield. They kind of complement each other well. Gaskin's more that pass catcher, maybe 2 to 3 down back, if you will, and Butler is that guy who's going to plow you through when it gets to the goal line and score those touchdowns. And their defense, I think their defense will significantly get better. I'm worried about the Xavier Howard stuff because, of course, he's one of the better corners, but I still like their defense. I like Brian Flores over there, so I like what the Dolphins did, and I think they got better. So if they got better, I believe that if Tua can really make those strides, take more command in the huddle, and kind of just develop. Right, he's going to get a fair chance to develop. They're not going to be itching to put in Jacoby Brissett, right? They're not going to be doing that. So I think Tua will finally get a fair chance here, and we'll have to see. But all in all, I like what the Dolphins did. I think Jalen Phillips, he has a chance to win Defensive Rookie of the Year this year. I really do believe it. 10 games his last year in 2020, 8 sacks, had over 45 tackles. The dude is massive, and he's not just massive. He's a freakishly athletic player. So I really like Phillips. And I like Waddle because I think they've killed the last few drafts. So they've been stockpiling these picks. I think they're reaching their peak of what they've been trying to do all these years because they had a quick turnaround, and I think they're going to continue to play well as long as they can get Tua right over there.
So you're saying that if you were a team that plays in a division with some really good quarterbacks, say Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, guys like that, and you were a team that lacks pass rush, lacks defense in general, and you were a team sitting in the 17th spot with a chance to draft someone with potential to be Defensive Rookie of the Year, you'd probably take them, is what you're saying.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
You wouldn't
who we're talking about there.
I don't know. Anyways, Alex, Miami Dolphins opinions. We got Dolphins colors set up as well.
I know it's quite. I always dig the Dolphins colors. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because it's so close to the University of Florida. But anyway, the Dolphins. I like the Dolphins this year. I really do think this is good. The biggest thing for me with Miami, it's make or break for Tua. I know it's only his second year, and I know that's hard to really say that about a quarterback going into his second year. But you got to look at who also was in this draft class with him. You had Joe Burrow, who before his injury was looking really, really solid, and then of course you got Mike's boy, Justin Herbert, who came out unbelievable in his first year. I do think in a way the general media was kind of a bit spoiled by having those two guys doing really well their rookie years. And Tua, in my opinion, having kind of a standard rookie year, showed some issues, showed some struggles, but then you saw some glimmers of positivity to put towards him. So for Tua, I have to see it year 2. I have to see that jump. I have to see – there can't be a sophomore slump with him this year. Like we talk about Baker Mayfield, he had a massive sophomore slump. Then his third year, he had a great year. Tua can't have that. He can't afford to have that because he didn't have a great rookie year. So Tua, he is going to be probably the biggest key to how the Dolphins season goes. I'm a big believer in Tua. I think he's going to have a good year 2. He's going to be the factor for me in Miami.
Yeah, that's why I was bringing up the whole Jacoby Brissett thing. I think that the Dolphins are ready to have a savior if they need a savior, if things go really wrong like they did with Ryan Fitzmagic last year. And I also want to point out that Dolphins fans and Broncos fans tend to do this a lot. They'll talk about, imagine our team with Deshaun Watson. Imagine our team with Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers. Imagine our team with any quarterback that's available on the market. But then when you say, hey, you guys are probably going to be bad this year because of your quarterback, they go, no. We got a good quarterback. We got Drew Lock or we got Tua Tagovailoa. Like, but you wanted him out of there all offseason, and now all of a sudden he's taken to the Super Bowl. I don't know. Brian, Tua opinions, Dolphins opinions, what are you thinking?
Yeah, so, Joe brought up a good point with their defensive and offensive ranking. A lot of what can overcome that, which the numbers tend to be fluky, at least for most teams, for most players, are turnovers, right? And that's the reason that their defense looked so good. That's where their defense was great, was in turnovers. And that's the reason they won, more games than maybe they should have. I think they have a lot of questions. One being Tua, but I have confidence in Tua. This is a young team and a young head coach who, in a lot of ways, outperformed expectations last year. And I think we're maybe giving them just a little too much benefit of the doubt if we're just expecting them to just continue to grow at that rapid pace. They're going to be relying on quite a few rookies this first year. And, when I go back and I look over their team, okay, I like Malcolm Brown, bringing him in. I think he's a great kind of second option to a Myles Gaskin. I like the addition of Will Fuller. I like Jalen Waddle, the rookie, explosive players. But as it sits, if we're being realistic, they don't have good receivers yet. They may prove that statement wrong, but right now, all you can guarantee is Devontae Parker being average and probably missing a couple games. Will Fuller playing about 10 games, and Jalen Waddle's a rookie. After that, you still have more gadget players with Jakeem Grant, right? Lynn Bowden Jr. Like that, they don't have many real receivers. And that is a bit of a question mark for a guy like Tua. I would imagine that they're going to try to stretch the field a little bit more horizontally than vertically to rely on Tua's strengths of accuracy. But there's some question marks there. And then even the offensive line, they outperformed expectations last year. A young group. You guys mentioned Jalen Phillips. He was my favorite edge rushing option in the draft this year, but he has question marks. We all want to talk about his physical ability, but health is a major issue there. I love Javon Holland, but he's going to be thrown into the fire as a rookie at the safety position. And then Xavier Howard at the corner position. Who knows if he's even going to be there, right? So it's just going to be tough. I don't think that we're going to see the same exact Miami Dolphins now, just with another year of experience, going to go to 12, 13 wins.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. And speaking of Xavier Howard, that brings us to our highlight player, who I have down as Xavier Howard. And I have him down because, to me, whether the Dolphins are in this wild card picture and are competing for a playoff spot or not is dependent on this Xavier Howard situation. Dolphins fans, I don't think you understand how important a cornerback one is to a defense and keeping the defense as strong as it was last year. I know you guys have depth at corner, but Xavier Howard to Byron Jones is still quite a leap for me, especially as trying to be an all-around cornerback one. I don't know if I trust Byron Jones to shut down a wide receiver one when they see him. Fortunately for them, Stephon Diggs is really the only big wide receiver one they got to worry about in their own division. But when they see other teams, they may struggle, especially teams with really good wide receiver cores, if they don't keep Xavier Howard around. Joe, Mike Gesicki, I love the pick, man. What were you thinking here?
I was super high on this guy last year. I got a lot of flack. I did a lot of AFC stat predictions, AFC East stat predictions on my Turn Up the Jets page, and I was really high on Gesicki, and I will pat myself in the back. I don't usually like to do that, but he had a career year in terms of receptions with 53 yards and 703 and touchdowns in 6. And this is going to be the guy to help Tua in his development. We could talk about the flashiness of Waddle, Fuller, Parker, but guess what? We have Fuller and Waddle who can really stretch the field. That's going to mean that Gesicki is going to get open right in the middle of that field. And he is freakishly athletic. We've seen some acrobatic catches by Mike Gesicki. I think this guy is really creeping towards top 7, top 6 tight ends in the league. I think if he has another year like he did last year, it's going to be there. And I think he's super important to Tua's development. And he was a guy that Tua really clinged to in those games that he actually played and had a fair shot. So tight ends are starting to be relevant again, people. It kind of went away in the 2013 to maybe 2017. It was really only Gronkowski running the town, but tight ends are important. And especially when you have a tight end who basically can also line up as a receiver and block relatively well. So sign me up for some Mike Gesicki. He's going to be a really important player for the offense and again for Tua.
I love it. I'm ready for Gesicki to take a leap also in fantasy football. That'd be fun to see him enter at least that middle tier where like TJ Hawkinson and stuff is right now. Brian, we should have put a hashtag fight on this post.
Another one?
Take it away.
Hey, I'm just putting value on the right positions. I think that's what this comes down to. And like I mentioned, the Dolphins have a lot of question marks. They have a lot of flashiness, a lot of optimism for the talent that they may have at skill positions. But it's going to come down to the offensive line for Tua. He's got his own health concerns. You got to start with the left tackle, Austin Jackson, somebody who had a great rookie season, incredibly young player, and an athletic freak in his own right. I think that's going to be the key to the Dolphins being able to maintain the season that they had last year. The key to having Tua take a step forward is going to be the offensive line, right? They have speed everywhere else. They have the security blanket of Gesicki, but without the offensive line, there are going to be major issues. One quick thing on Xavier Howard and the potential of him leaving. They should be prepared somewhat to handle that blow, in the sense that they had a first-round cornerback pick from the previous year's draft, and Javon Holland is somebody who can move to corner. That was one of his, kind of claims to fame in the draft process. He's a great safety, but has that flexibility. And then the McCourty twin, that provides some veteran leadership and some depth at the cornerback position.
I like it. Jalen Waddle, Alex Robson, can we tell you're a college football fan, man? Go ahead and take it away. I'm Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, and can you guys guess which team is Brian Bolster's team when it comes to college football? But anyway, not to knock against you, Brian Fidon. I usually root for the Trojans as well. But anyway, Jalen Waddle is the guy I'm looking at for the Miami Dolphins. Why am I looking at Jalen Waddle? Because he's got all the tools available. He's fast. He can make good catches. I'm worried about his health because Nick Saban played him in a couple times in the playoff games in his final college football season. And he looked about half the way he did before the injury. Like, he did not look like he was ready to play again, which I thought was a bad decision by Nick Saban to do that to him. But clearly, Jalen Waddle's got heart. He wants to play through anything and everything he can. And if Jalen Waddle is healthy, the duo of him and Tua reunited again is a bit scary to me. So I think Jalen Waddle is going to be a big factor in opening up this pass game for Tua, giving him a receiver he can trust going deep downfield. Jalen Waddle, show the NFL world what you got, my man, because the college football fans and us, we know what you got. Now just go show the NFL world that.
I think Jalen Waddle is going to be a baller. We'll see how Tua uses his weapons, and they already have some built-in chemistry from before. All right, we're going to transition to the Buffalo Bills here. Keep this chugging along. We got to get to these record predictions in the next 8 minutes or so. So let's go ahead and get these Bills knocked out of the way. Let me pull up the graphic with the departures and the key additions. Bills obviously finished first in the division last year. Did it with ease. 13-3 last year. Breakout year for Josh Allen. As far as departures, this is what I like about the Bills, and I'm really high on them this year. John Brown, EJ Gaines, Josh Norman, Andre Roberts, special team there. Like, who did we lose, right? And they made some key additions, just complimentary guys that are going to help this team out a ton in the long run. Emmanuel Sanders, I love that, being their wide receiver 2, even their wide receiver 3. If Gabriel Davis is going to be the wide receiver 2 there, don't care. Whatever it is, Emmanuel Sanders immediately adds to this wide receiver room when he steps in it. Mitchell Trubisky, the best backup quarterback in the league right now. Matt Breida heading to Buffalo to help out in the running back core. We've seen Breida be very serviceable in the past, especially when guys have went down. So if Singletary or Moss go down, Breida's going to have a bigger role. Jacob Hollister, just another guy that's going to complement Dawson Knox with some talent. And then their draft picks, Gregory Rousseau. I think I said that right. It's the Seau at the end, Junior Seau. And then Carlos Boogie Basham. Those guys going to be probably competing for reps there during camp. What are your thoughts on these key additions and subtractions, Alex Robson? Do you feel like the Bills did a good job at maintaining high-quality team?
They really did. I think they really are a major Super Bowl contender. But there's something I have to mention with the Buffalo Bills when they got Mitch Trubisky. It's one of my favorite things that Brian Bolster always says. Fade Trubisky. Because it's true. I hope to God we don't have to see him play. But I think that is a actually solid addition, having a reliable backup that can make decent plays every now and again in Mitch Trubisky. Even though he doesn't make them often, I think he can do them. Hopefully, we don't have to see it. But Buffalo, here's your chance to redeem yourself. You have the squad. Really, the only team in the AFC that stands in your way, I think, is the Kansas City Chiefs. Get to the Super Bowl. Get yourself a championship. Because soon enough, Josh Allen's going to be demanding some big-time cash. So cash in on the opportunity you got him on his rookie deal while you still can.
Alex, we're doing the AFC North on Tuesday, I believe. So I need you to maintain the Bills being the only competition when these Browns fans flood that chat, please. Anyways, going on to Brian. What do you think about the Bills offseason so far?
Yeah, man. Yeah. So, there's a kind of the common saying for teams, addition by subtraction. When you get rid of a player that you didn't really like, the Lakers are saying that with Kyle Kuzma. In the case of the Bills, they have subtraction by addition with Mitchell Trubisky. And your team is just instantly becoming worse with him being on the roster. You don't want him near Josh Allen. Come on now. You don't want him discussing anything. Like, I don't know about you guys. I'm not talking too much about the Bills right now. But, there's some mentors I look to and whatnot, and I've heard other top people talk. There's certain people you go to for advice. There's people you want to ask for their advice, and you're going to follow that. And then there's people that you want to ask for their advice and then do the opposite, right? Both are valuable. Both are valuable. If I'm Josh Allen, I'm going to Mitchell Trubisky and be like, hey, man, what do you see here? What would you do? All right, I'm good. And I just do the opposite, right?
I love it.
The Bills are going to be good. The offense is going to be good. They have 2 question marks. I mean, fairly big ones if they want to win the Super Bowl. Offensive line has to get better in the run game. Defensive line has to get better going after the passer. I mean, this was an average defense quietly last year. They particularly weren't good against the run, and they didn't have a single player with more than 5 sacks.
I like it. Joe, anything to add on the Bills? I will say this, Brian. If Josh Allen wants to make money, he better get Money Mitch's advice. Go ahead, Joe.
Now, Brian kind of hit it on the head for me as well as Alex. I mean, they should be the next team other than the Chiefs, realistically. I will say I think not regression, but I think we have to limit our expectations of now this is the year. Can Josh Allen repeat it? Is this the quarterback he's going to be the rest of his career? We've seen the flashes, not even flash. We've seen it in a whole season. He played like an MVP last year, in my opinion. Top 3. I would say that. I think it'd be Rodgers, him, and Brady. I mean, honestly, those are the 3 most valuable players last year. Can Josh Allen do it again? I think he can, but he's got to be healthy. And I think that relates to the running game. You got to get a running game. You don't want him to be your leading rusher. Let him throw touchdowns to Stephon Diggs and let him dominate. But other than that, I mean, the Bills didn't get much worse. It's very similar of what the Buccaneers did. They got all their guys back, and they got these little key additions. So the Bills should be a contender all the way to the end again. And I'm sure Bills fans will love redemption with the Chiefs.
Oh, yeah, I agree. And here we go. Let's go into the highlight players here. And I like your guys' takes because they kind of all led into these highlight players. Brian picked some defensive line. Joe and Alex both picked some running back. I picked Jordan Poyer because I'm Jordan Poyer's biggest fan. I think Jordan Poyer is an absolute ball hawk, and he's a playmaker. And he's one of those safeties that doesn't show up on the stat sheet, the impact he makes in the game. But he comes down, and he can guard slot receivers. He can go and play corner outside, and he can play over the top as a free safety, and he's a pretty solid tackler. So I just like to see Poyer take the step up and get some attention from the rest of the media and the rest of the football people. I don't think people talk about him enough. Joe, you picked Zach Moss. Alex did too. So you guys can kind of tag team this one. What are you thinking about Zach Moss, Joe?
Really like Zach Moss, and I think he's going to get it. I hope he gets more of a fair shot. He actually didn't start a single game. He appeared in 13. He only had about 110, 112 rushes, not that much, 480 yards, 4 touchdowns, a very small sample size, but he's a big bruiser running back. That's what they need. They need a workhorse running back, not necessarily because obviously they have a terrific pass game, but you just got to take that pressure off of Allen. I mean, it's going to be a huge difference maker if you have a running back who you can give the ball 15 times to. Josh Allen doesn't have to run 10 plus times. I think it's going to make a huge difference. They're going to become a great team. If they get a running game, they'll go from a great team to a legitimate Super Bowl winning team, in my opinion. I think that is the huge storyline for the Bills. You need a run game. I think it starts with Zach Moss over Devin Singletary because they drafted Moss last year in the 3rd round for a reason, because Singletary actually was on pace for 1,500 yards as a rookie if he started all 16 games, which is kind of crazy. I think he only started 10 or 11. but they drafted Moss for a reason. So I think he has a lot. He has huge touchdown potential, and this is what they really need. Take that pressure off Josh Allen. Just let him focus on throwing the ball.
I've been telling people Zach Moss over Devin Singletary in fantasy football. That's what I've been saying. Not out the gate. We may still see Devin Singletary control the touches, but as the season progresses, if they don't see success, they're going to make a change. I feel like the change would be at running back first. Brian, you showed the big guy some love here on your AFC East preview. Ed Oliver, what's your thoughts on him?
Yeah, Ed Oliver, a top-ranked prospect and recruit all the way going back to high school, a high draft pick. This is his third season. He has got to make all that come to fruition and really be a stud, not only in the run game, but also in the pass game. He's got to get above 5 sacks this year. He's an interior guy. I mean, I don't expect him to be Aaron Donald. He doesn't quite play that same exact position either. But my point is get to double digits, but he's got to get to 7 and then just be an absolute wrecking ball in the run game. To me, that's somebody that they've got to rely on homegrown to help their team take a big leap this year, because like we talked about, it wasn't like they did major things in free agency.
Yeah, I like it. Alex, a little extra Zach Moss love real quick.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Zach Moss. I love the draft pick for the Bills, and now I like him even more because I feel like the Bills are grooming him. I feel like they are grooming him to be running back 1 because I've been disappointed in what I've seen out of Devin Singletary since his great rookie year. So Devin Singletary, I think, like you said, Mike, will get the main focus of the carries early, but I think in the end, Zach Moss will become running back 1. His running style reminds me a little bit of Marshawn Lynch. He is a bruiser. He goes through the tackles. I really enjoy watching Zach Moss play. I fear that we have to play him twice a year, but Zach Moss, I think, is in line for a big year too.
Perfect. All right, let's get into these record predictions. We just passed the 1 hour mark. The goal for these episodes are 1 hour. So let's get into them. I think we all agree the Bills are going to be great. I'll go first. I got the Bills winning the division at 15-2. Very impressive. I got them beating the Chiefs during the regular season when I looked at the schedule predictions. So I just want to point that out for people that are like, how is this possible when they see this many tough teams? I got them beating some of those tough teams. I got the Patriots coming in second. I think this defense can be a top 5, even top 3 defense once again. So I got them stepping up and taking second place in this division. I honestly am a little low on the Dolphins. I got them at 9-8. I think that they're still going to be similar to last year where they do reach up the rung a couple times and they play good teams close. But overall, I don't know if they're a playoff team, especially if they lose Xavier and Howard. Then I'm really going to start pushing Dolphins fans and saying, hey, you guys might have a rough year compared to what you're expecting. And then, of course, the Jets at the bottom. It's a growth year for the Jets. We won't worry about them too much. I got them going 4-13. Brian, we'll jump to you. You got the Bills starting it off.
Yeah, I think the Bills are going to be a really solid team. They take one little tiny step back because of the inconsistency in the run game. Still some uncertainty. Is their defense going to be just average again? So I think 12-5, a very good year. The Patriots are going to improve. Their quarterback play will be better. Just simply can't be worse. They made a lot of moves in free agency. And then the Dolphins, like we had talked about, they're a young team. I expect them to be extremely competitive, but just in terms of the way the games shake out this year, the way the turnovers kind of come back to the norm, they're going to be 9-8. And then the Jets, again, like we had talked about, major roster overhaul. They are a better team, but still some question marks. First-year head coach, first-year offensive coordinator, a rookie quarterback. So 4-13, man. I see Robson's this dude. Man, but
we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. Joe Scurrill's got a fancy draft to get to. So, Joe, give your final division predictions. Thank you for coming on the show, by the way, making time in your draft day.
Of course, appreciate it. I'm upset I'm not on the graphic, but I do have my predictions.
Wait, what? Oh, I'm sorry, Joe. I think
no, you're good, man. I'm just
my
joking.
bad.
Yeah, I got Buffalo first place, 13-4. We talked about it. They're going to be the team right next to the Chiefs for sure. I actually got the Dolphins 10-7. I had the Dolphins and the Patriots very close. And I think it was for my reasonings, but they were 22 and 20th in offensive defense. I really think they are going to get better this year because even with Tua, if he's not great, teams have won with decent quarterbacks as long as they have surrounding cast around them. I got the Patriots at 9-8. I like the moves they did. I think they're going to be close to that wild card team. They still won 7 last year with Cam Newton, 8 touchdowns. I think even if he starts every game, which I don't think he will, he's got to throw for more than that. And I do have the Jets at 5-12. I think the Jets will be competitive, and I think they'll be in a lot of games, but they're still a year or two away. I mean, we have to be realistic here, and they're definitely a better team, and I think I'm not going to shut off every game at the end of the third quarter. I think I'll actually be able to watch mostly every Jets game this year, and in a life of a Jets fan, as depressing as that sounds, that's all I care about. So I have them at 5-12.
I'm glad you put a mostly in there. You gave yourself some wiggle room just in case.
I have to. But, yeah,
Alex,
I got.
Yeah, go ahead, Joe. No,
yeah, that's kind of what I think there. I mean, they'll be in games. In games, but I just think they're kind of they're overpowered. The AFC East, I think, is going to be really competitive, and it's going to be really fun for the next 5-10 years with all these young quarterbacks.
It is going to be a good time. I think we're going to see some flip back and forth between these three after the Bills. Alex, just briefly go over the Bills, briefly go over the Dolphins, and briefly go over the Patriots because we're going to need to dedicate some time to this Jets take, man. Go ahead.
We are indeed. Bills 14-3. I think they will be the second seed in the AFC more than likely. I think they will be a Super Bowl contender, possibly even a Super Bowl team. I'm not 100% sure. Have to see how they look. Dolphins at 11-6. That is primarily because I have faith in Tua that he will have a great bounce back year too and will be a very, very solid quarterback. Patriots at 9-8. Now I think that is probably going to be the best 9-8 we ever see. I think Cam Newton is just going to keep them out of a lot of games. Maybe when they put in Mac Jones, the record changes, but we'll have to see now. The Jets at 8-9. What the hell is Alex Robson smoking? Well, I'll tell you what I'm smoking. I'm smoking that Wall Street Wilson pack, boys. That's what I'm smoking. I'm smoking the Robert Saleh hype train. I'm smoking that New York Jet defense. Now, why do I say 8-9? I really do think there are 8 games the New York Jets on their schedule can win. I think they can win week 1 against the Panthers. I think they can beat the Denver Broncos on the road. I think they will beat the Cincinnati Bengals. I think they can beat the Dolphins at least once when they're playing at home. I think they can win that. They should be able to beat the Texans easily. In my opinion, they should be able to beat the Philadelphia Eagles easily. They have potential to beat the New Orleans Saints. I'm not 100% sure. Alvin Kamara is a big question mark, I know. That's what kind of scares me really about the Saints, but I think their quarterback position issues are going to be a problem. And I think in the duel between Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson, I think Zach Wilson's team has an advantage over the Jacksonville Jaguars. That is why those are 8 games I think the New York Jets can and possibly will win. Now, I'm not saying the Jets are going to go 8-9. I'm thinking best case scenario here, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.
When I'm doing my record predictions, that's what I do. Best case scenario. It's the New York Jets, people. They're going to lose games they're not supposed to. That's what's going to happen. But I do think best case scenario, if everything works out well for these team, they're a solid football team in terms of their roster. Hell, a lot better than they were last year. I will say that. I think everyone in this room and everyone watching can agree on that. So I think best case scenario, we see a great year 1 out of Zach Wilson. We see a lot of potential for a lot of growth on this team, and I see possibility of 8-9.
All right, well, let's talk about the realistic worst case scenario. Brian, your thoughts?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I'm glad you said that, Alex. Like, yeah, this is best case scenario because I kind of get where you're going with 8 games that they could win. That would just take them winning every single one of those. But you look at the schedule, there's a real chance that, I mean, we're talking like 0-10 off the bat. Now, likelihood.
No way.
Okay, hold on. Slow down. First of all, the likelihood is not 0-10. Against the Panthers, they're going to be the underdog. The Patriots, underdog. Broncos, underdog. Tennessee, underdog. Falcons, maybe, maybe not, but I would bet that they're going to be the underdog. Patriots, again, underdog. Bengals, we'll know by that time in the season. I think if it was today, most people would say the Bengals are going to be a little bit better if we're giving Burrow the benefit of the doubt of being healthy. Colts, underdog. Bills, underdog. Dolphins, underdog. And then the Houston, if Watson's not playing, I mean, I'm just saying the worst case scenario is looking at maybe 1 win, which I don't think that's going to happen either. We talked about their roster. It is much better, but it could get dicey. That Wall Street Wilson pack might be feeling a little sour.
Would they be 10-0 if it was Sam Darnold playing quarterback, Brian Bolster? Is that what you're saying? Would they be 10-0 if that bum was playing? Listen, I understand you're a USC fan. You love Sam Darnold. We're not going to have that argument today. We've had it so many times across every single platform, I think, in the world at this point. So we're not going to have that argument today. I'm just saying, I understand you talk about them being underdogs in games. Underdogs win football games all the time. They can win football games when you're the underdog. This isn't talking about Las Vegas betting we're talking about here. We're talking about who they can believe we're going to win the football game. Now, every single game,
but we're not talking about like, hey, let's just predict a bunch of miracles. I just said he talked about a worst case scenario. There's going to be the underdog in a lot of settings. That's all.
Okay, let me finish my sentence now since I was interrupted. But in this game, in this season, I think the Jets can beat a lot of teams. Now, in every single game you mentioned that they're going to be underdogs in, there's going to be a lot of key factors against them. Week 1 against the Panthers, I think it's Christian McCaffrey and the Panthers defense. Both are very, very solid. Of course, Christian McCaffrey, probably the best running back in the NFL all around. Talking about the Patriots, of course, they got that great defense and Bill Belichick's unbelievable against rookie quarterbacks. Broncos, a great defense, and they'll be on the road. So there are a lot of factors going into this season in those games for the Jets. I really do think that the Jets have potential to be a surprising team. The Dolphins were it a couple years ago. They were the 5th overall pick a couple years ago, and then they came out of nowhere and almost won the division. They were very competitive. So I think the New York Jets have a chance to have that kind of leap. Now, again, I'm not saying that they will. I'm just saying the best case scenario, they honestly could do that. I'm sorry if I'm hopeful and all that. I got to have something. I think the New York Jets can do this. I have faith in this system. Now, of course, it's not going to end up happening. I really do think the Jets will find a way to make my life even more hell than it usually is. But I do think the Jets can make 8 and 9 happen.
I will say this, Alex. I'm on your side of the Sam Darnold debate. Not as extreme as you are. I think he can be serviceable, and around with a really well-built team around him, they can be decent, and the Panthers may be decent this year. I'm low on them personally, but maybe they can be decent this year. But being on your side of that argument, I also got the Jets going 1-8 to start the season.
Who's the one win against at least?
The Falcons, an upset win too.
I'll take that.
Okay. Anyways, let's look at our average real quick and get on out of here. So here's the Warzone average. At the end of the graphic, we had 8 people participate and Joe Skirto. Joe Skirto's isn't factored in here. That's my bad completely. But the Bills, according to the Warzone Sports Network, are going to go 13-3. That's our kind of Warzone prediction. Patriots coming in second at 10-7. That might be a hot take for some people. A lot of people just generally accept that the Dolphins are going to be better than the Patriots, and they don't really take a look at this Patriots roster and with Bill Belichick leading them and realize, okay, this team has the potential to be an old school, tough it out, really good football team. Dolphins coming in third at 9-8. Once again, the question was Xavier Howard. We see a lot of guys on this graphic are lower on the Dolphins than you think the public probably would say. And then the Jets coming down to earth, 5-12. Alex obviously boosted that average up quite a bit. It's really a 4-3 win average in my opinion. But there you go. There's the Warzone average record predictions and the complete preview of the AFC East. Any closing statements, Alex, Brian? I'll let you go first, Alex. Closing statement.
Jets, Jets, baby. Sam Darnold's gone. Zach Wilson season on, baby. I'm hyped. Let's do it. Jets 2021. Can't wait.
Brian.
Hey, the AFC got better. It's going to be a better year to be an AFC East fan. I expect this to be a really fun division to watch.
I'm with it. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. Make sure you're hitting that subscription button, the little notification bell right next to us. That way you know when we go live next time. Tomorrow, Monday, I believe we're going to have a welcome to the War Zone. And then on Tuesday, we're going to have our AFC North preview, Wednesday Sports Force. And just every day of the week, we're going to have some content going. So you do not want to miss it. Give us one more great Jets chant, Alex, to send us home.
I'm not falling for that.
Me on the radio, coming to your locale. Got into the third round, better bring the smoke now. Step into the war zone.